Hey guys, Jimmy here, aka Palette of the Dead. Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to a Mortal Realms magazine flick through, review, whatever you want to call it, type of video. As always, before we get going, if you like these videos, hit the like button, hit subscribe and drop a comment down below. They're always very much appreciated and I'll get back to every comment as soon as I possibly can. It's always very appreciated, as I say. Anyway, let's jump into it, shall we? So, what have we got with this week's magazine? Because we didn't have an issue last week because of the ongoing nuttiness that is the current world at the moment, we're on issue 13, so we're technically a week behind, but never mind. So, we've got a medium dry brush, which is going to be very, very handy for painting that Sigmarite mausoleum that we've got, and we're getting more parts to that in very near future, which I can't wait for. It's going to be good fun. And you've got two paints. So your paints you've got a Bad and Black, which is a great black base coat paint, and Mechanica Standard Grey. If you watch my painting videos and you've seen some of my Stormcasts, you'll know that I paint mainly with the Mechanica Standard Grey as a base coat, which is a brilliant base coat. It works very, very well, doesn't leave everything too dark, and it does take other colours very, very well over the top of it. Black can do the same, however it will leave things looking a bit darker and can be a little bit more difficult to paint over with lighter colours, especially yellows, which are always better to go over white, in all honesty. So, two more great paints. Always a very, very handy thing to have as well, having extra paints, because you're going to need them. However, as the sun's kind of coming out now, painting certain models using Mechanica Standard Grey, you will go through this in no time at all. What I would recommend, as long as you are safe to do so, go to your local B&M, get a can of grey spray paint and pick it up, because you're left with models that are painted like that as you spray, which it's a lot lighter than Standard Grey, but they take contrasts quite well, so they do look really, really good. This is just one of the random Blood Bowls players that I'm painting up. Well, I say painting up, I started painting them and I haven't got around to finishing the rest of them like normal. But it takes paints very, very, very well, and you just spray paint it up instead, and you can do absolutely crap loads in one go, which is always handy. So let's move these paints out of the way. Let's jump into the issue, shall we? So this issue, we've got, bang, straight into it, because there's no models, there's no details about any kind of particular units or anything like that. So it's all about the Forces of Order. So the Forces of Order is the alliance between different races that kind of stand together against the darkness of chaos and protect the 8 realms from madness and misery. They live by the rule of law and duty and oaths that bind them. The main kind of factions that these incorporate, of course, are the Stormcast Eternals. You've got the Sylvaneth, which are your Treekin from Gairan. The Ideneth Deepkin, which are your underwater elves, which have got if you ever see them, they're really, really cool. You've got things like the Scribe, who has the octopus. You've got shark kind of mounted units, and a massive giant sea turtle that carries a lot of stuff, which is pretty damn cool. I must admit, it's one of the models that I really, really want to get and just never got around to it. The Daughters of Cain as well, which are your dark elves, but they are on the Forces of Order. The new elves that are coming out are going to be part of it as well. You've also got the Dwaradin, so you've got the Fireslayers and the Hadron Overlords are also part of the Forces of Order, and the Lizardmen, aka the Seraphon, which are always pretty cool, your dinosaur boys and everything like that, which I'm hoping they'll do some more models for that soon, because they are awesome and I love them. You know, being a kid that grew up with Jurassic Park. Anyway, so a bit more details about them, so how they're seeking to claim the realms and everything like that from Forces of Chaos. So everything like that. So the cities of Sigmar, generally have quite a mixture of armies in them and stuff like that. So you often, the armies are made up from elves, humans, Dwaradin, and even Sylvaneth. They also have their own fighting methods, which can make them very, very deadly as well. And they do like to protect the realm gates and stuff like that. So they're kind of your protectors, your forces of good, shall we say, in a way. So going further into it, so details about certain battles. So you've got the Blizzard of Blight. So the Hallowed Knights push through through thick forest and gathering snow, their silver armour gleaming in the light and stuff like that. So they're standing ahead kind of against the Maggotkin of Nurgle and side by side with the Sylvaneth in the lands of Gyron during a horrible winter and stuff like that against the force of Nurgle, which is always pretty cool. The artwork's pretty cool as well. So you've got things like the different kind of Maggotkin and stuff like that, who are you kind of infested, kind of corrupted, bloated, diseased, and kind of plague carrying enemies and forces of chaos, which is always pretty cool. So pretty decent artwork. It's really, really nice. The rise of the wraiths, so onto the Nighthaunt themselves. So during the Necroquake of Shaiish, Nagash witnessed terror caused by the Nighthaunt. He had discovered the perfect shock attack force to unleash upon his foes. So before the Necroquake that he created, he didn't really have the chain rasps because he couldn't have the souls, because all the souls were going to Azir mainly. So he unleashed the Necroquake, which breaks a bit of Sigmar's hold on the souls of mortal kind, and he kind of creates these Nighthaunt, and they focus their attacks on certain areas of cities in Shaiish, which is pretty cool. So there's more details about all of that, which is always really, really cool, and all about their commanders and stuff like that. If you ever do get to read it or anything like that as well, the Soul Wars book, it's actually really, really good. It's quite nice, and it gives some great detail about everything on there as well. You've got how to paint the Sigmarite Mausoleum. I wouldn't use your Mechanica Standard Grey or your black on this. I would get a spray paint, and say the weather's a lot nicer, so it'll dry quite a lot faster. If you've got the space, you've got the time, and you've got the ability, spray paint it. It's far easier, makes life a lot better for you as well. Just don't spray it indoors because he's going to stink the place out. So they're saying using your dry brush to base coat, which you can, it's not a problem. You can do that using Mechanica Standard Grey. I'd say though, if you spray paint it, it's far easier and far better. Use a bad and black on things like the fence posts, on the fencing and stuff like that, because it'll be a darker colour anyway. Then use Cantor Blue for some reason, don't know why, to give it a different look. I probably won't be doing that. I want to paint it the way I want to paint it, and then dry brush Corax White over the actual tombs, which does give it a very nice look. It's just very basic, in all honesty. I'm going to do it in a different way. I think it needs a little bit more colour than just grey, because grey is a little bit dull, in all honesty. I mean, if you wanted to, because things like that, you got to remember they are, from the looks of it, rivets and stuff like that on top of that roof. Use some metallic paint. So if you've got Ironbreaker, which is a perfect one, it's a dark metal, that with a little bit of Nilic oxide kind of gives it that kind of rusty, kind of weathered look and stuff like that as well. And then onto the battle part. So as per usual, their situation for battle. So you've got Geists at the gates. So you've got the Stormcast, so your 3 Castigators and your Night Quester, protecting against the Briar Queen Thorns, and using the larger battle mat and placing out your buildings as well from your Sigmar Mausoleum. It's a fairly easy way of doing it, and it's a pretty decent playthrough from the looks of it as well. So you've got things like the Castigators with their burst of celestial energy and stuff like that. Don't forget though, good old ghosts can fly, which is always going to be a challenge if you're going up against them and you're trying to hide behind things. So yeah, so it goes through all of that, taking part, and you can have a go, have a crack at that, which isn't too bad. It's pretty decent. Play through it. It's a pretty good way of doing it. Before we go into what's coming soon, you've also got this pull-out bit, so which is about storm keeps, your Lord Ordinators, storm host organisation as well. So the organisation of the storm host. So you've got your Lord Commander, and you'll have like different temples and stuff like that. So you'll have your Sacrosanct Chamber, for instance, which will have multiple conclaves, so which can mainly kind of your kind of like shock troops. Ruination Chambers, Covenant Chamber, Logister Chamber. You got the Vanguard Auxiliary Chamber, which will have your Angelos Conclave, Exemplar Chamber, Warrior Chambers, Harbinger Chambers, and Extremist Chambers. So your Lord Commander will have command over all of these different chambers. They'll have different ways of going through them, so from Lord Celestants to Knights to Lord Relictor to all the way down to your Stormcast Sequitors, your Castigators, and things like the Liberators and stuff like that as well, which is always pretty cool. Gives you a bit more kind of in-depth look at the storm hosts and stormcasts. So your Lord Ordinators are they're the heads of things like the Ordination and stuff like that, which will be things like your Celestar Ballista that we got not long ago, bits like that. The Stormkeeps themselves, so you're having Lord Castellan, who is in charge of looking after the actual grounds and the defence of the Stormkeep. They carry lanterns that emit a golden glow that heals fellow Stormcasts of even the most terrible wounds, and they will rush to the battlements to defend and heal when under attack, which is pretty cool. And a bit more of the artwork, which is always really good, so you can see a realm gate just there as well. So yeah, and that's about it really, guys. But of course, moving on, next issue, so in 2 weeks time, we'll get some Dreadblade Harrows, which are your first mounted units, which are ghosts on ghostly steeds, which are pretty cool. And I must admit, I'm kind of like, I'm liking the idea of painting them. Should be pretty decent, should be good fun. And then in issue 15, 2 weeks after that, so in about a month's time, we'll get another part of a Sigmarite Mausoleum. So it'll have things like the gate, it's more of fencing, and the statue for the middle. So it's the second part of the Sigmarite Mausoleum. So it should be pretty good. So make sure you've kept hold of them gates from the first part that we had. Anyway, that is about it then, guys. Tell me what you think in the comments down below. But as always, if you've liked the video, hit the like button, hit subscribe, and I shall catch you next time. Bye bye now.